Hello, hello, and welcome to the Video Game Book Club.
We're back.
This month, we read BioShock Rapture by John Shirley.
He is not only named as John Shirley, but he's Bram Stoker award-winning author.
What does that mean?
John Shirley.
What's
So
the
Bram Stoker is
Stoker?
it's named after the author who
Bram Stoker?
who wrote Dracula.
Oh.
And it's kind of like Edgar Allan Poe has another one named after him for like it's like a horror story. Award-winning.
I wonder what he wrote to win that award.
It does mention his books in the back about the author. He has a bestseller, Demons. He also has a cyberpunk classic, City Come A-Walkin', Eclipse, and Black Glass.
Oh. I wouldn't say this was necessarily a horror book.
No.
This was more like a political drama.
Science fiction is what I think I would call it.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. BioShock's in like that weird... I'm not 100% sure what to call it because it is horror at the end of the day, even though you can fight back, especially the first one.
Yeah.
But it's not that scary. It's like once you get used to it, it's like whatever.
I remember. So the first time that we played it, on the PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
Because
you threw the controller at me because you were scared.
they come out of nowhere and you don't really see them because of the lighting. You can't adjust it as much as you can now, and like when they redid it.
Also, they like you can hear them. And it's not like directional sound. They just sound like they're everywhere.
It echoes.
The enemies.
And the splicers, that's what we're talking about. And you can't really see what they look like. And they pop out of nowhere because they're climbing on the ceilings and stuff. And so...
It is a horror.
They surprise
kind of. So yeah, anyway, we have the BioShock book. I guess we're going to try to explain BioShock like you haven't heard of it before.
But in reality, I think if you're reading this book... you have heard of it, at least, hopefully. I
feel like
I would suggest you play the game first before you read the book.
There's so many characters that you should know ahead of time that I think would help.
Like major spoilers in the book that will spoil the game for you.
Yeah. So. Read this after. Even though it is a prequel, it's not canon though, by the way.
It's not fully canon, but it's like I feel like it's mostly canon.
So there's like minute changes. It's very small, but Ken Levine, the creative director of BioShock, said on a Twitter thing that he was like, it's not canon because I didn't read it, even though he helped co-write this book.
And a lot of stuff like dialogue from the game, like the audio logs, if you have played BioShock, are actually in the book.
Yeah, word for word in the book. Yeah, read it after.
I would say you could probably even
1
read
and 2.
In between 1 and 2, but there's stuff in BioShock 2 that happens in the book or that's referenced in the book, so it would probably be better to play both games
and then listen
and then read the book, but you could technically, I guess, read it in between the two.
So what even is this book about?
Let me read the back to you. So the cover is, I don't even know who did the cover. Let's see. Well, the book is dedicated to the fans of BioShock 1 and 2. I don't think it's gonna tell me who did the cover's pretty cool though. It's
probably concept art.
That's what it looks like. You're in Rapture. There's a globe. So you're at some sort of party. But this is the prequel to the award-winning best-selling video game franchise. It was the end of World War II. FDR's New Deal had redefined American politics. Taxes were at an all-time high. The bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki had created a fear of total annihilation. The rise of secret government agencies and sanctions on businesses had many watching their backs. America's sense of freedom was diminishing, and many were desperate to take that freedom back. Among them was the great dreamer, an immigrant who'd pulled himself from the depths of poverty to become one of the wealthiest and most admired men in the world. The man was Andrew Ryan, and he believed that great men and women deserved better. So he set out to create the impossible, a utopian free from government, from censorship, and from moral restrictions on science, where what you gave was what you got. He created Rapture, the shining city below the sea, but this utopia suffered a great tragedy. This is the story of how it all came to be and how it all ended. Oh, the cover art is by Craig Mullins.
Yeah, it all falls apart in like, what, 10 years?
I mean, there's cracks way before then. I think anytime you...
There's cracks from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of the info in this book you get from the game.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, you're not really getting very much new stuff. You'll get it if you listen to every audio log in the game. This is just more in order, I would say.
Yes, it's chronological, which the game is not because you're finding audio logs. So audio logs are just recordings on like old school cassette recording that you find throughout, and a little picture of the person pops up in the lower right hand screen, and you kind of hear, hopefully you hear it if you're not being disturbed by other audio in the game. That was so frustrating when we first played it, because
Turn on subtitles.
Yeah, people just pop in and interrupt your audio logs, and then you have to go back into the menu screen to restart them. So
I liked that in the book. One of the characters, Tenenbaum, was like, I don't like using these recordings because anyone can just pick them up and listen to them.
There was a lot of things in the book that I really appreciate, and we'll get more into it as we go deeper into the book. But for those people who have never played BioShock, I think we need to do more of like an introduction on what is BioShock.
I mean, that's what this is, basically.
Well, this is the story
behind the book.
That is true.
We are us explaining to you what BioShock is.
Absolutely. But the difference between the game and in the game, you are a person on an airplane. You're a dude, and the plane crashes in the Atlantic, and you see a lighthouse, and you swim towards it, and then you get into what's called a biosphere. And you go to this underground city.
I thought it was called a bathysphere.
Oh, it is a bathysphere. Biosphere is something.
What's a biosphere?
Biosphere is like a controlled environment that is created within it. Okay. It is a bathysphere because we're under the sea. My mistake. I apologize. But so you end up in Rapture, and you get to see a little bit of it through the window, and then you get there's a radio in the bathysphere, and there's this person named Atlas who is guiding you throughout the city, and the city's all in like ruins. It's a pretty impressive city though.
It's confusing city.
It's like very Art Deco.
I wouldn't know how you'd get around, to be honest.
There
seems overly complicated.
Yeah, in the book they explain like there's railways and there's the bathyspheres take you to like different locations because it's supposed to be all connected. However, even in the book, it didn't seem like it was. 1 and
2 is in 2 different sections of Rapture.
Yeah, it's a large city.
Yeah, but it seems confusing. But
there are like as soon as you get to the city, you see someone attacked by a person with hooks in their hands, and then you kind of know it's not all.
So if that sounds interesting to you, I would recommend going to play it and then coming back and listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
Because we will be spoiling BioShock 1 and BioShock 2 and this novel because
we have to.
In
order to talk about the novel.
And I would like to talk about BioShock 1 and 2 because I just played both of those in a week.
Yeah.
And I have questions, concerns.
But also, I feel like this was one of the first games where you had a moral dilemma that you could...
Moral dilemma, quote unquote.
But there is a moral dilemma that you can choose to be.
I would like to talk about the moral dilemma in 2, but I would have to do spoilers because that moral dilemma drove me crazy. It was so bad.
In the collection, you can find directors. What are those film canister things?
Yeah.
That and then they give you some background information, and the moral dilemma they said was not really a moral dilemma because most people don't choose to be the bad guy. But I don't know anyone I've known several people who play BioShock, and I don't know anyone who.
Why would you kill children? Basically,
we'll talk about that.
Kill children or don't kill children. It's a tough moral dilemma. I know. Really wrecks you. I mean, they didn't even want to put that in the game, but they were pressured to do that, which it kind of ruins the whole main theme of the game.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, so they even said that in their thing, their little interview they did with Jeff Keighley. So
Video Game Award host
Goff Knightley. Yeah. Anyway, so wait, you go first.
So are we getting into spoilers? Is this
No, I was gonna talk about the audiobook.
Oh, go for it.
So I I listened to the audiobook narrated by Jeffrey Kafer. The guy does a lot of good voices and accents.
Does he do Atlas?
He does Atlas.
Excellent. Atlas has an Irish accent.
He had to work into it. So when he started it, he was like, because he had to do so many other accents, because he had to do like Suchong and stuff like that, and like the Russian guy and the German lady, and like so he like the Irish was kind of rough at first, but then he got into it and it was good. But my issue with him is he doesn't actually sing the songs that like the Cohen guy sings. There's like the theater guy and
There's also the like theme song for Rapture.
Yes, he doesn't sing them, he sings them, which is cheating. So Jeffrey, step it up and sing the song. That's my critique on you. But other than that, you did a great job. It was nice not listening to a robot. I like listening to real people.
Yeah. They're voice actors, the people that read these audiobooks. They put a lot into it, and tone of voice and feeling and stuff like that. So they are actors in themselves, even though they're reading a work from someone else. So.
I mean, the accents were impressive. The amount of accents that you have to do for this book is insane.
Yeah, so this Rapture is made up of a collection of people who are supposed to be of like mind, and they're from all different walks of life, and so that means they're from all over the world. So you have Suchong, who is. Did we ever find out where Suchong is actually from?
He's Chinese.
Okay, well, I didn't know if he was like Vietnamese or Chinese or.
And
then you have Tenenbaum, who is
very German.
You have a couple of other German characters.
Yeah, lots of Germans.
Then Atlas is an Irish accent. You have Frank Fontaine, who's very like
mobster New
Jersey, Chicago.
I love that.
Yeah, Andrew Ryan is like. 1950s all-American, like over-the-top actor type of
very deal. Californian, enunciates very well, but like 50s California.
Yeah, he over-enunciates because Andrew Ryan is originally Russian, and so he's trying to get rid of his Russian accent because he has an issue with Russia.
There is another Russian dude. There's Chivkovsky.
Yeah, he starts with a K.
Yes. Anyway. So this guy had to do a lot of accents, and my question is, because I didn't actually read the text, did the text, like, write it out?
Not as much as other books. So I read the book, and Suchong definitely has a style to his, he talks to about himself in third person. Tenenbaum is just the placement in the words, but it's not accent heavy.
Okay.
Atlas, there's
no like Z's or anything.
Some of the words for Atlas are changed to have more of an Irish ring to it, but it's more slang than actually. So
how many stars did you give this book? Because I didn't actually check your Goodreads before.
I actually really like this book. There's a lot of stuff that happens and a lot of things that happen really quickly. It jumps back and forth between characters. If you have not played the game, you will get totally lost and you will not like this book. So again, please play the games before reading this book, because I think you'd actually like it if you played the games. There's just so much happening that we couldn't even write everything down, so we did bullet points about like the main stuff that happens in each chapter. Even there's 20 chapters in the book, and then within each chapter there are like 5-6 different like subheadings of different places and different characters telling their side of the story, so the narration switches very frequently. I think I know we talked about this a little bit before off mic, but the style of writing by John Shirley, it's very stylized, very short sentences.
It was gonna be like Ayn Rand or whatever.
Yeah, she's a little wordy.
So I was like, oh no, because I only read Fountainhead and I didn't like it. So I was like, oh no, is it gonna be like that?
No,
and I don't feel like it was.
Style-wise, it's very like detective novel, like 1940s.
It's quick.
Very quick, short sentences. His grammar, if you're a grammar Nazi, it starts a lot of sentences with and, but, so like.
I love that. I'm not a grammar Nazi, and I start sentences.
You do not start sentences with conjunctions.
So I hear you people out there.
It is a style.
Don't listen to the grammar Nazis. You're doing perfect. Keep it up. I was intrigued by what was happening. It was really interesting, and I was excited to find out what happens next. I went to like a barbecue, and this book was all I was thinking about, so I had to leave early to go read some more of it because I was like, I have to know what happens, even though I kind of already know what happens because I played BioShock.
But he makes connections that that are hinted at in the game, but it's good to kind of get. I feel like it's satisfying to get more of an answer to it.
It is. It's nice. It's also good to hear it in order and to hear like why things happened.
Yes. And then you do, I feel like you get a bigger picture of Rapture because playing the game, you're in like one area and then you go to another area and then another area, but they're going back and forth. So it feels like more of a city than like just you're stuck in like
Yeah.
the different.
It does make it seem like more of a city.
Neptune's bounty.
And it combines the areas of like 1 and 2 that makes sense. And
Yes,
stuff like that.
it very much has Sophia Lamb is a character that's in 2. I don't even think she's mentioned in.
She's not even mentioned in 1.
But she is mentioned pretty early in the story, in the novel. So
I don't think anyone else is, to be honest.
For 2,
For 2.
they mention her like henchmen, which are the architects.
Oh,
yeah, they're mentioned very, very early in the book, but they're not really mentioned all that much. And I don't think they're. Again, there's so many characters. It's hard.
It's hard.
And even like I always miss up. There's Sullivan. There's Sinclair.
Oh yeah.
And is that the name? What? There's the surgeon. Is he
No. The surgeon is Steinman.
And
another German, right?
I thought he was American.
With a name like Steinman? That doesn't matter. He doesn't speak with an accent, so.
Yeah, he does. They're all crazy, though.
Yeah. I would say the main character of this book is McDonough, though.
I feel like there are 4 main characters that you get most of the information from. Sophia Lamb is one of them, but she is not in it as much. I feel like Tenenbaum is still a supporting character, but you pretty much get Andrew Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name? Bill
McDonough.
He's the true hero.
He's the best one of them all. He's the only one that doesn't suck.
He's English. Mm-hmm. He's got an accent as well. We forgot to mention him.
Oh yeah.
There's Frank Fontaine or whatever his name is because he's got multiple.
Yeah, that guy.
And yeah, Sophia Lamb. For me, those were the 4 main people that everyone else like rotated around.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would almost consider Tenenbaum main because you follow her POV a couple of times.
But you do the same thing for like Suchong and
I don't know. I feel like I had her more than
Steinman
and I saw Steinman like once. Oh, and
Diane McClintock.
Oh yeah. Okay, you're right. Yep.
So, but I feel like those are like supporting characters. So Diane McClintock is a supporting character for Andrew Ryan. Yes. So although you do see her point of view, she's more of in support to the story.
So does this mean you gave it 4 stars?
I did give it 4 stars. I don't I didn't say that. Yeah, so I gave it 4 stars. I liked the way that it was written and stylized. I am a grammar Nazi, so that sometimes does bother me. But again, it was in the style, so I appreciated that. I felt like it moved very quickly. For him having to use so many characters, I feel like he did a great job of giving each an identity. There was some and this is what there's some characters I wish he would flesh out a little bit more because they were still kind of 2-dimensional for me. Those were some of the supporting characters, but it wasn't necessary because they're not necessarily important.
I love the fact that he word for word used audio log.
Yeah, it was, at first I was like, well, that's cheating. But then I was like, okay, that's smart because...
I like that.
Because then you see in the context in which they're saying these things and it makes more sense versus just pulled out.
It's funny to like just have listened to it while playing the game and then like hearing it in the audiobook and I was like, wait a second, I've already heard this before.
And most of the time it's in italics, but so it's easy to pull out in the book, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's dialogue between 2 characters, and that happened a couple times with Suchong and Tenenbaum.
I gave it 4 stars also. I was debating giving it 5 stars because I liked it a lot, but it's got a lot of problems. It's got a lot of violence against women, and it's honestly a little racist. And I know you can say It's like the 50s, but I don't like to give excuses. So
Yeah, it was a little sexist and racist and lots of violence.
yeah, but like we'll get into a section or all of the terrible things in the spoiler area, but yeah, I don't know. I couldn't make it to 5. I don't know what to give 5 stars. I don't think I've read anything that I would give 5 stars.
For me, 5 stars is something that like sits with you after you're done reading it and you just like so excited to like tell everyone about it. Like you have to read this book. And I don't think that everyone has to read BioShock Rapture.
No.
It is very particular to a certain audience. Andrew Ryan is all about free markets and it does hold a lot of political and social manipulation.
Yeah, I don't know. I just liked it. What's 4 stars on Goodreads? Is it just like I really liked it?
I think it's I really liked it because I liked
Yeah.
it as 3 stars.
Yeah,
And it
3
was
stars
okay
is what I
too.
give most of our books.
Yeah.
Where it's like I liked it, but like not that much. This
The
one,
Elder
I'm like,
game, Elder Scrolls.
the Elder Scrolls was one. It's the only one I also gave 4 stars to so far. So I think this is the best book we read this year. And
It's also like the longest.
yeah, it was.
Which is why it's taking us a little bit longer. It's like over 400 pages, 430 for the mass market, but
It was a 12-hour audiobook, and this was the first one that I divided throughout the week instead of just marathoning it all in one go.
We chose to read it in February, which is the shortest month, and so
Yes.
we didn't quite make it, but I finished it this morning.
I finished it last night, but I did have it spread out, which I think helped, but we'll see if it helped and if I just totally forget everything because like I'm afraid of.
There's just too much information. There's things that we'll skip that we probably won't even talk about.
Yeah. There's stuff you don't really need to know about, so we're gonna give you the hot deets on what happened. We're about to go into spoilers for this book, for BioShock 1 and BioShock 2. So if you haven't played those, go do that.
Now's your chance. Pause or escape and then come back so you can hear all about it.
All right, now let's talk about this prequel. Start with the prologue.
So we start the book in New York in 1945. So we are at the end of World War II, at least. That's kind of what the big thing that happens is the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And that's what
tips Andrew Ryan off.
Yes.
Now, who is Andrew Ryan?
His real name is Andrei Ryanovsky. I mean, I know some Russian people, but I don't know. Ryanovsky to me does not sound Russian, but I could be wrong. I'm not Russian myself, so just because you put a ski at the end of a name does not Russian.
Andrewski Ryanovsky.
Mm-hmm. Andrei Ryanovsky. So he's from Russia. His father got him out during their revolution, where the Bolsheviks take over, and then there's communism, and which not really communism. It like started off as communism, but then ended up being more of a fascist regime. So he is not about government control, and everyone needs to work for what they have. He becomes a huge hypocrite towards the end.
Yeah, he really does.
But this is very like reminiscence of
see where he's
the
coming
Fountainhead,
from, but
and
there's a lot of problems with that.
Atlas Shrugged. So if you've ever read any Ayn Rand, she also was Russian who came over to the United States and is all about capitalism and free market.
Ayn Rand, Andrew Ryan.
It's not a coincidence.
Oh.
Yeah. It's very much established on other things. And even in the book, they bring up the fact that Atlas's speech is very much like the Kingfish. So there's a lot of copying from real people and real things. But yeah, this is
inspiration.
This is very Atlas Shrugged. So if you have not read Atlas Shrugged by
Which is
Ayn Rand,
funny because in his interview, Ken Levine was like, I only read The Fountainhead.
Yeah, which
means his writers probably read Atlas Shrugged.
Yeah, they would have had to, because Atlas Shrugged is about people of industry who are tired of the government stepping in and taking their stuff. And so, I mean, that happens also in The Fountainhead, but they actually leave to build their own society. with their own money and things like that. So, and then you get like, who is John Galt is the line from Atlas Shrugged, which is who was Atlas in the game. Direct copy. But so it's very much, I feel like it was more inspired by Atlas Shrugged than Boundhead, but
I'm just
same ideology.
What he said.
So we are in New York. The bombs dropped, give Ryan the fear that the world is going to end and he doesn't want to be part of it, so he's going to take his own money to build something.
It's a new rich guy way of, what's the phrase? Fucking off into the woods. It's building a city underwater, baby.
Yeah, where no government interference. It's a totally free market, although not really, because he controls
runs
everything.
And then, it's so bad. It's such a bad idea.
Well, so
for someone who doesn't say that there's no kings, he sure does want to be king.
Yeah, that's good. It's that whole absolute power corrupting absolutely. It's free markets don't work because people take advantage of it, and the
fact that they changed the money in Rapture too,
yeah,
I think caused a lot of problems, because how are you going to do shipments?
But then also, what is it based on? He wanted them to be self-reliant, and that's the whole point. He wants to build a city under the sea that no one knows about, zero interference, self-reliance, and so he is putting together a team to secretly build this thing. And they don't mention that it's a city until several chapters in. Everyone's like, what is happening? Ryan just gets an idea. He's like, I have an idea. And then there's a man who's fixing his toilets.
Yeah.
Bless him. Mr. Bill.
Bill McDonough. Wait, that's chapter 2.
It's chapter 1.
I would like to talk about Sullivan, his head of security, who he's monologuing to in Prologue.
Sure.
He is there also. And he becomes head of security of Rapture. That's all I got to say about that.
Sullivan has a which is the name.
What?
Victor Sullivan from Uncharted. I'm just kidding.
Oh. I was like, from Monsters, Inc.?
But, yeah, not the same. But, Victor, yeah, so Sullivan
is that actually his name, Victor Sullivan, or am I thinking of it wrong? I know it's Sullivan.
I think you're thinking of, I don't
You're right, I might be confusing video games, but his name is Sullivan.
Yes, and he is the head of security.
And he's also not that important, so don't worry about it.
He has an interesting character arc, but you don't really hear about him all that much. He's just kind of there. Because he is
just kind of
head of security
who's bad at his job.
Yeah, and then he struggles with the things that he has had to do. But in chapter 1, we meet Bill. Bill, he wants to be more than he is. He fought in the war, and struggles with that. But he's a plumber.
He's a freelance plumber.
And Mr. Ryan sure does like his
prices.
Yeah. So he's all about integrity and getting the work done and doing things the right way. And so Mr. Ryan's like,
oh, you didn't upsell me on plumbing stuff, so you're a good dude. And he's like, yeah, I just charged you what I did, so.
You're hired. And he makes him his head engineer, which...
I was confused about that. Did he make him head engineer, or did he just make him an engineer? Because I feel like they had 2 other head engineers. Because in BioShock 2, they said the head engineers were 2 other dudes that you had to take out in that game, basically.
There are other engineers because he fixes toilets. I'm sure he doesn't know how to put together a full city.
I feel like they just made him an engineer, but he's also on, like, the committee that they make.
Yeah, so they have a committee of, like, but I don't know why Ann Cold
he's in charge of plumbing.
But he fixes everything. That's kind of what his job is. He is the fixer. Like, that city is not...
He mainly just looks for leaks and then tries to fix them. Like a plumber.
Yeah. But he's good at his job. And so Ryan likes him because he's honest and he brings him along. And
he's really the main character of this book, to be honest, I would say.
Yeah, I would put him as the protagonist, yeah.
Also the only good guy.
Yes.
That's all I have for chapter 1, is basically meet Bill McDonough.
Mm-hmm.
And then chapter 2, we learn about Frank Gorland.
Frank. Oh, and this is where we hear that Ryan is building a city under the sea. Frank is a con man. He ends up taking over someone's bar by the docks because someone owes him loans, and he just comes in and he says, this is my bar now.
Yeah, and he goes in there to listen to gossip about the next con he can do. basically.
Yeah, and that's when he's like, something's going on at the docks.
He's so gross, though. There was that whole section where a lady comes in and it's like, I'm so sad that my husband died building a thing under the water. And he's like, a drunk woman. I've never slept with a drunk woman in a long time. I'm gonna take advantage of her. Wait, she's telling some hot goss. This is my 50s accent.
Hey, kid.
Less mob boss, more peppy.
Let me tell you a thing or two.
I'm about to con this woman, see? I'm Frank Gorland.
Yeah, so then as we move on, like we're in 1946. I feel like this city, it's a big city and it gets built crazy fast considering it's built under the water.
Yeah, he has a lot of money.
He's just like sending a bunch of people out. So we find out that it's off of the coast of Iceland in the Atlantic.
I didn't know that.
Because Bill gets to go to Iceland to see what Ryan is working on. That's when we're in chapter 3. And Gorland is snooping around. We also, in chapter 3, meet Sandy Cohen, who's like one of my least favorite characters in the whole thing because he's just so gross.
He's super gross. He is the third boss, I believe, of the first game. Mini boss.
So.
I mean, he's not really a boss, but he is kind of a boss.
You can not kill him.
Yes.
Right?
You cannot kill him. Oh, I have to tell you, so you cannot kill him because you're not really supposed to, quote unquote.
He's a douchebag and I totally shot him in
the face.
And
then later on when you go to the apartments, you can go into his apartment and there's like splicers dancing and they will totally ignore you. Which splicers are the enemies of this game. And then I started playing the piano because you can, and then the splicers got mad at me for playing the piano, so they started to fight me, so I killed them. And then he got mad and came downstairs and tried to fight me, so then I killed him and I took a picture of him.
Yeah.
And I feel like I got a rare achievement, so like a lot of people don't do it like that. I think a lot of people shoot him in the face after his chores are done.
So taking a picture of Cohen is a trophy.
It is.
I mean, I got it in...
Yeah, but I feel like a lot of people don't do the whole go to his apartment and then have all that happen.
No, because he's awful.
Because people just kill him
immediately. So he's a murderer. Sandy Cohen is an entertainer. He's a singer and he does plays and stuff and...
He does a lot of stuff. He does art and theater and...
In the game, he... And even it mentions this later on in the book where he likes to kill people and then, like, put cement over them and put them in different...
Classic crazy guy artist move.
That is the horror part of that freaking game because you see these statues and then you turn around and then they move and then you're like, what the crap? And it has eerie music as it's going. So
very memorable.
My cheat for that for those of you playing the game is you take a picture of them, and if it allows you to take a picture of them, that means they're alive. Same thing with the creepy people lying on the ground.
Just hit everything that's made of plaster in that game.
That's true.
That's my method for the badness. But yeah, Ryan likes Cohen for some reason. He thinks he's cool.
Because they're both creepers, that's why.
So he's like, do you want to come to my special city and do art?
Because no one understands Sandy Cohen.
I don't understand Sandy Cohen.
Gross. And then also in chapter 3, we meet Ryan's secretary is Elaine, who I forgot who Ryan was stooping, as we shall say.
Yeah.
In the game, it ended up being Diane and not Elaine.
Yeah. Not Ryan's girlfriend. It's Bill's girlfriend.
Yeah. Well, Ryan.
Not yet, but
yeah,
it's Ryan's secretary's named Diane.
I guess Ryan has 2 secretaries because he has Elaine and Diane. And
I just thought that Diane was just his girlfriend.
She was his secretary because he was in the book. He's always complaining like, "Oh, Diane's working today. I wish I didn't let Elaine go home."
Oh, like backup secretary maybe.
She's not very good at her job though.
Oh. Yeah, I didn't know backup secretaries were a thing, but I guess, I mean, if you have the day off, might as well. They take turns having to deal with your garbage. Anything else we learned in chapter 3?
No, that's pretty much...
I don't have anything on chapter 4 for some reason.
So, you find out that Frank Fontaine is a person, and I totally thought that Frank Gorland just changes his name to Frank Fontaine, but there is an actual Frank Fontaine.
Yes.
And...
he's a ship captain, right?
Yes. And so he comes around and he's... Fontaine is selling fish to the Ryan workers out in the sea, and Frank's like, oh, Frank Gorland's like, oh, I see an opening there. And then, this is chapter 4. So I wrote down a couple quotes that I felt were interesting, and this is one the first quote. And this is Frank Morton's, I guess, motto for the whole thing, and why his motivation.
Frank
Moreland. Is that what it's? Garland.
Gorland.
Gorland. I don't know. He's got so many names.
Frank. Just call him Frank.
He says about Ryan, because Frank was an orphan, and so he's got this like complex where he didn't have anything, so now he wants everything. But he says, whatever he got, I want it. I'm going to take it from him. He's thinking about Andrew Ryan. So that's like his whole motivation throughout the book and the games, is that
I want it. Just give it to me.
I want it. It's mine. And then this is where he kills Frank Fontaine.
Mm-hmm.
So he buys the ship, and he's his fleet of fishing ships, and he's like, oh, Frank Fontaine, you can go retire in like Costa Rica or something like that. But no, he kills him.
He kills him on his ship and steals his identity.
Frank Fontaine is not his real name.
Nope. I wonder if his actual name is Frank. Frank Gorland probably wasn't his real name either.
No, that's what he says. It's not. He's like, it's a different identity because the FBI is looking into him, and there's like a guy that he has like gives information to. So he's like, don't look at me, look at Ryan. See.
Now we're on chapter 5.
Yeah, this is where we start to go under the sea for the first time. It's still 1946, so they've already started building things, and they have like part of a city, but things are leaking. And Bill saves Andrew Ryan's life. He almost dies himself.
Yeah, a tunnel flooded.
And there's a lighthouse in 1947, so there's always a lighthouse.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so
they
say
game, you know what I'm talking about.
that this book isn't canon, but like there's a million raptures if you want to play Infinite's game. So it could be canon in its own world. Yeah. Games are different canon, books are different canon. It's like the FNAF we just read.
It feels like it mostly follows.
What's funny is I heard online, I don't know if this is true because I didn't play Burial at Sea, but they took some stuff from the book and made it canon in Burial at Sea. So
they made it canon.
Kind of, because there's also like discrepancies between the game for the first game and what happens in this book, because in the first game you will come across a lot of corpses and they're dead in a different way than they are in the book.
Oh yeah, you do find it's the backstory of a lot of like the dead people that you find. But I mean, there's like tons of dead people in Rapture when you play the game.
That's true, but it's so I don't know, it's close enough that I would consider it canon.
Yeah. And then in the lighthouse we see the famous motto, no gods or kings, only men. Unless you're Andrew Ryan. Who's the one that wrote that phrase.
And is holding the sign.
Yeah. Hypocrite. And then that brings us to part 2. It's the second Age of Rapture. So part 1 is
getting the band together.
Yeah, it's the foundations, as we still say.
Yeah, it's making the like main council, basically, of who decides what's up in Rapture, and then just building the city.
Which the second part starts in 1948, and we are in like opening ceremonies of the city. So he gets the idea in 1945. In 1946 he starts building it, and only 2 years later it's already built and people are inhabiting it. Yeah. Which is highly impressive, considering, again,
no wonder it
on the bottom of the ocean.
So many problems. It was rushed. People are having issues adjusting.
Because you can't leave.
Yeah, okay, that's like the main problem.
You have to be invited, first of all.
Andrew Ryan has to think you're cool.
He has to approve of you being there. And you cannot have any communication with the outside world. Yes. And yeah, you're not allowed to leave.
Hard to be a free man when you can't leave. So people are having issues. They are missing the sun.
Which you would think that they would
have like a fake sun.
That's what Raccoon City like is underground, but they fake it so that people there.
Oh, like in the movies?
Yeah.
But yeah, they have like fake windows. But I mean, people have fake windows for stuff. I used to work in a tiny cubicle that was just against a wall with no windows, and they put fake windows up. So I really felt like depressed.
Would you rather look at a fish tank?
Yeah, actually. I would probably rather look at a fish tank.
So we are in 1948 now, and this is where Ryan gives his great chain speech. It's his welcome speech that you will hear over and over and over again in the freaking game.
The great chain pulls us along.
And in 1948, we find out that... Oh, no, just kidding. This is when Fontaine gets invited to Rapture because he is providing all the fish.
Weird, they can't just get the fish themselves or underwater.
Yeah, so he is providing food, and they didn't think about that before.
Yeah, but there's no weird. He didn't invite any farmers. He invited one lady to do the park.
Yeah.
With the trees to provide the oxygen, but there's a farmer's market, but there's no like places to go make food.
And there's
from.
No like cattle or anything like that.
Yeah.
So where they're not getting any.
And there is
a vegetarian, you don't
complaining later about
meat for protein. But...
Yeah, but it's the 50s. Like they haven't made the fun fake meats yet made of plants, unless they did, and they're ahead of its time. But they're not because they're mostly eating fish because they complain about it later on, and like. They're like, the coffee's gross and weird.
Yeah.
And we have weird, like, barnacle pies. Because we just have to make stuff out of fish and, like, stuff in the sea.
That place has got to smell so bad.
Yeah, that place does smell super bad. And they talk about how the people stink.
Yeah, when we get to find the little sisters and all that stuff, they're like, their hair is so greasy. And Tenenbaum is always referred to as being, like, unshowered and...
Has stuff on her clothes and everyone...
Unkempt.
Yeah, I can imagine that place probably just smells like... BO and fish.
Gross. And because there is air circulating because there are trees there, but it's got to be like stale and
I don't
everything is like metally and
oh yeah,
no air.
You get that like metal smell too. And they are making wine, but they're watering it down with like seawater.
They keep complaining that the wine and the booze and stuff is all gross because there are Frank Fontaine will become a smuggler and bring things in, but Ryan doesn't want any interaction with the topsides, so they're pretty much on their own, except for the stuff that they smuggle.
It's such a bad idea. You should at least start with outside trade and then slowly work up.
Yeah, because you have to be independent.
He built this city too fast, and he didn't think.
No.
Oh, he also didn't. Well, I can talk about this later.
But they also, because it's the 1940s and we'll get into the 50s, like everyone smokes like a crap ton.
Oh yeah, it's gonna smell like cigarettes, fish, BO, and metal. And the air is gonna be like tight.
Oh, the cheap wine too, because I'm sure
God,
it's all
if you make a Rapture candle, you just add what it actually smells like there.
So besides like just like sea salt or this. Oh, gross. Please don't ever make that candle. So we jump. We have Sinclair's Solutions. Sinclair is the pharmaceutical salesman. I don't fully get who Sinclair was.
I thought he was the guy in 2. You remember the guy on 2 who joins your group? But I think his name is something else. 1 second. I'm gonna Google it.
Because Sinclair's mentioned just like a handful of times, and originally Tenenbaum works for Sinclair. She is a Wunderkind. She was in the concentration camps, but they used her as...
That is the guy from 2. Sinclair is the guy who is basically your Atlas in the second game. Who is actually not a bad guy. Oh. I was surprised. He didn't have the fun twist.
But I think in the book... Doesn't Ryan try to use him to...
He builds the prison.
To learn about plasmids, because Suchong and Tenenbaum are the ones that make plasmids, and Ryan's not in the loop, and he's like, what? There's something going on in Rapture that I don't know about? I must be part of it.
Yeah.
So he, like, reverse engineers plasmids. So. Sullivan asks, I have in chapter 7, so we're still in... 1948, we're about to jump to 1949. He asks Sinclair what is his issue with Tenenbaum, and Sinclair's issue is he's like, I feel like Tenenbaum's like doing research that she shouldn't be doing, but then they're like, haha, we're in Rapture, there are no rules here.
Yeah, so he's like, in Rapture, where scientists don't have to be burdened by morality, and I'm like, that sounds like a bad stance to have. Yeah. What are you talking about? Well, you're making it sound like that's such a great thing, but saying, like, you don't have to have morals here is kind of effed up.
Yeah, there is no, like, ethics committee on what scientists should and should not do. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. So, I think that's kind of the first crack where you see things starting to
I
crack
mean,
a little bit.
Ryan has a committee.
He does, but he's weirdly about free markets, although he breaks his own rules.
Free
all the
markets
time.
just for him.
Yeah.
Or if you're rich, basically.
Yes. And that's where we find out that, yeah, there are no rules in Raptures. And then we also hear that Tenenbaum is taking blood from, like, everyone. She's just like,
For science.
for science, give me your arm. She takes other things later. Which...
You know, a dedication just to science, I guess.
She has, like, no...
She's interesting, that one.
I mean, we know she has no moral boundaries, but she's got, like, no social skills whatsoever.
No, she doesn't, and it's really funny. This is where she gets that slug. She buys it off of a dude.
Yeah, well...
Because the dude was talking about it in, like, a bar. And
'Cause-
she's like, hey, do you still have that slug? And he's
Yeah.
like, yeah. And she's like, can I have it? And he's like, yeah, okay, sure. Here you go.
There we also... So we're in 1949 now.
Wait. I have to bring up one more thing.
Yeah.
Did you know they talk about Comstock in this book? Like Comstock from Infinite Comstock?
No. When did
Yeah,
we talk about that?
there was a thing where they were like the workers used to work at Comstock's mines before coming down here and working on Rapture. And they're like, it's not any better than the Comstock mines, which sucked. And I was like, Comstock from Infinite? Is that on purpose?
Maybe.
I don't know if this book came... Did this book come out definitely before Infinite? I think.
Well, we should have done our research.
Yeah, sorry.
This copyright 2011.
BioShock Infinite came out in 2013, so...
So this book came out before. I think the Mines is like an actual historical reference. I don't think it's...
does Comstock own the mines in history?
Again, another thing we could easily Google, and Savvy will do that when...
What am I Googling?
The Mines, if that's an actual thing.
Comstock mines? Okay.
So we're in 1949. Elaine is pregnant with Bill's kid, so they are together, and he had a crush on her, and way to go, Bill.
Yeah, go for it, Bill. Get
Elaine
that
seems
girl.
like a good person, too.
Yeah, I like Elaine.
She's worried because she's pregnant, about raising a kid with no churches, because religion is not allowed in Rapture.
Okay.
No Bibles, no nothing.
I have a thing about Comstock.
Okay.
It's called the Comstock Lode. Is a lode of silver ore located under the eastern slope of a mountain in Virginia City, Nevada. Haha, gotcha. Which it was named after American miner Henry Comstock, so they might be talking about that because it's around the same time period.
Yes, I think it is a historical. There's a couple of historical references in this book.
I like to think that it was
Maybe they named Comstock after
a miner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even though he's in the air, but that's another game for another time.
That game doesn't matter for this story.
We also see Ryan talks to Fontaine, and he's worried that Fontaine just kind of has free reign and has subs to catch fish, and that's what he's smuggling in, but Ryan doesn't trust him, so he's like, we need to keep an eye on those things. And then we meet Stanley Poole, who is the reporter.
Oh yeah, he's also in the second game.
And
he's the second mini boss.
We meet Carson, who's making an amusement park.
Which I totally forgot the second game. I guess it's just so unmemorable. But there is a theme park.
Yeah, it's very like all over the place, I feel.
It's chaotic.
Yeah.
It's like
if this was really an underground city, what else would we put in this city?
I don't want to say BioShock 2 is bad, because it's not a bad game. It's just not as good as the first one.
I think the storyline is just a little too all over the place.
It is chaotic, but it's fun.
I mean, you get to see the other part of Rapture.
The theme park was fun.
The theme park is all propaganda, but it
really
was interesting.
Blatantly obvious.
Yeah. Oh, this is so in chapter 7, Elaine goes to see Suchong and Tenenbaum about her pregnancy.
Yeah, because the doctors are busy, so she goes to see them, and it's like super awkward because they do not know how to handle.
They are
and be
not
delicate.
people at all. Like, they should not be working on live people. They're not those types of doctors.
They're like, how's the fetus? Is it
He says, I think it's Suchong who says, the creature wishes to come out and feed. And he's talking about, because she's like due like any time, and Elaine's like, get me the heck out
Yeah,
of
he
here.
just like opens her legs and is like, oh, it looks good in there. And she's like, whoa, whoa, hold on a second.
We also find out in chapter 7 about experiment 37, which is manned and machine, which will eventually become the Big Daddy. Because they need people outside of Rapture to fix all the leaks on
Yeah.
the outside. And so people can't be submerged that long without much pressure. And so they're like, oh, let's experiment and make them one. Mad scientist.
I mean, where would they, if you're merging man and machine, are you just leaving them outside? Are you making your own quarters for them?
No, I mean they come inside because they in the second game when you become the Big Daddy,
You can go outside and inside. They
Yeah.
have like little doors for you to go through.
But that's for divers and stuff. The nitrogen and even the pressure, you can't be outside and you can't be deep diving for that long because our bodies are not meant for that.
I don't think Ryan thought about how much maintenance workers he's gonna need. He just thought everyone was gonna become like businessmen like him, but you need people to keep the city maintained.
Yeah, I think. Well, I feel like Ryan was fortunate in his business practices and did not have to work fully from the ground up. Because even though he respects Bill for who he is, he
doesn't respect Bill.
no. And he's like, well, if people really want it, they'll work for it. But it's like,
That's not always the case.
You have to have social classes in order to have a functioning society. Like, there are people that this is just,
yeah.
like, family structures are the same way. You have someone who leads and someone who does the dishes, right? And those roles can change and things have to evolve over time. And I think that's the real issue with Rapture is there is no room for evolution.
No, the rich stay rich and the poor just can't do anything about it.
Yeah, because that was one of the biggest issues in the story is, so you get fired, right? Or you lose your job or something happens where there's an accident, you lose your hand or whatever, and you can't work, but you can't leave.
Yeah. So you're just stuck in the eventual poorhouses.
And then free markets, like I could charge anything. So you...
Did you talk about the trash situation?
No.
So there's too much trash in Rapture. That's also another problem that they have. And there's these two shopkeepers. There's this guy named Gordon Shep and Gevenstein. And they got into a fight because Gevenstein is charging Shep 10 times the amount for garbage pickup because they're shop competitors. Like, they both run a shop, and I guess Gevenstein also runs the garbage.
In that
area. So he's charging him 10 times because he wants him to go out of business. So... Shep goes and talks to Ryan about it, and Ryan's like, well,
it's a free market.
It's a free market.
You can absolutely do that. That's allowed.
That's allowed, and that's fine. And he's like, well, he's going to drive me out of business. And he's like, well, you just suck, I guess, at business. So, and then Gevenstein shoots Shep and kills him. And then Ryan's like, well, now I have to do something because you committed a murder. So I'm going to have to put you in jail.
The one thing against the law that you can't kill anyone.
And then Gevenstein then killed himself.
Yeah.
And so Ryan's like, oof, I don't think this is working out.
Yeah.
This is looking bad.
But you can, as a free market, I could charge anything I want. There's apartment complexes that people have to live in because there's never enough housing for people. And
yeah, there's like 18,000 people and they're all stuck in like temporary housing.
Yeah, because they needed to build more, but they didn't. And so Ryan did not think about this at all. This is what happens when you build a city in 2 years and then invite that many people.
Yeah, what the heck?
He is in the clouds.
He's the dumbest boy in school. I would like to talk about the twist when we get to it, of the first game, because it's the dumbest stuff. So we'll get to that when we get to that.
Again, we meet. There's a bunch of people that we meet. We meet other people working with Bill, which you see in the game, Pablo Navarro, Roland Wallace, and Stanley Kybert. And then we meet Julie Langford, and
I wonder if there's any Andrew Ryan apologists out there that are going to be like, you just don't understand him.
He doesn't understand.
Actually,
him.
Right.
Well, that's the people that are all like, capitalism, it's so awesome.
I'm worried for you if you believe that. Go get some help.
Or read a history book, because we started off as a capitalistic society, and then you see what happens. And if this is a perfect example of a capitalistic society, The only issue is no one can leave, so they're forced to be in it. And the promises that were made to them weren't fulfilled. And this is kind of, he says, a man chooses, a slave obeys.
A lot.
That is a big line in the game and in the book as well. But you can only choose what's put in front of you.
Exactly.
And what's created by Ryan. Ryan's the one that makes this choice, but...
And listen, if you have a job, if you have to work your way up and you have to start a job, you're gonna have to obey your boss.
Yes. And there are rules in Raptures. There's just, like, 3.
There's 3 rules and they're wiggly at best. You know what I mean? They're like
and
iffy.
it also depends on who you are, because you saw that one guy murdered people and he was like, oh, well, I have to put you in jail. But then Cohen murders people and everyone knows about it.
Yeah.
And it's fine.
But he gets a pass because
they're
he's Ryan's friend.
Yeah. And then this is, again, we see like the smuggling coming in, and Bill's the one that he's the voice of reason in the story.
Really the voice of the people.
You're gonna need maintenance workers, you're gonna need people to pick up trash, and yeah, it's great if you want to build yourself up, but again, there are social structures in which someone has to take out the trash.
Yeah, someone has to do that. And it's funny for him to be like, maybe we should have like a state thing to take out the trash, and Ryan just like flinches.
Yeah, he is
like,
not union.
Clutch my pearls, how dare you.
State. But it's like, you as the state have provided these buildings.
Yeah, they're all owned by you. And people have to buy them from you.
There are cracks, but chapter 8 is when we meet Sophia Lamb. She's a psychologist. She was in Hiroshima, and she saw the shadow people, which is the shadows on the buildings of the people that were vaporized, which would have been awful. We find...
Oh yeah, they needed to bring in a psychologist because people were going crazy.
People are going crazy, there. But also Ryan's trying to use her to see who is who's loyal and who's gonna break and change the social status to unionized, and
that's just evil.
Oh, this is when we meet Sophia Lamb. This is the point where Tannenbaum gets the slug.
Okay.
Tannenbaum has the weirdest character development. Like, she was a young kid in the concentration camps who ended up making friends with the Germans, and they used her to help with the experiments, and that's where her background in science comes from. But she's just like goes for it. And she's like taking blood from people, and then she's trying to take semen samples from people by sticking like needles in them. And so she gets a bit of a reputation, and people are scared of her, understandably.
Yeah, I'd be scared.
But she hears a story about a man who had like a issue with his hand, and then he was doing stuff in the fishery, and he finds a slug, and then all of a sudden his hands work. So that's when she's like, oh, can I have that? And he's like, yeah, sure. And then this is where the science fiction part of the story comes in, where there's these
magic slugs
that change your DNA and can help heal you and fix you.
Gives you superpowers.
Yeah. So the doctors then will change it to what will become known as Adam. But that's where that starts. And very quickly after Sophia Lamb comes in, she's like, we need to unionize. I'm going to take over Rapture. Yeah. And Sophia Lamb
Fair enough.
Not mentioned at all in the first game. Is she the antagonist in the second game, right?
She's the antagonist, the main antagonist.
Yeah.
I hate the way she talks. Very much like belittling riddles.
Yeah.
Like, I can tell you're being mean to me, but like you're doing it in a confusing, weird way, and I don't like it. And also, okay, it's really funny while playing through the second game that people are antagonizing a Big Daddy.
That's just mean.
They don't even... I feel like they're just like big hulking monsters with no thoughts. They're literally like, ugh. And then you're like, you know what? I bet under that suit you're really ugly. And they're like, ugh. You know? Like, why are you... Does it matter? Like, it's so goofy to do that. your mission is stupid and your face is ugly and I hate you. And the Big Daddy's just like doing its job. Ugh. It's really goofy.
Yeah, that's awful. We're like jumping in time too, so we're like in now 1951. Fontaine meets with Tenenbaum and Suchong
That's the next bullet point I have.
to invest in their research. So Andrew Ryan was having them do stuff, but they're like, well, we need more money because research is expensive. And Fontaine's like, well, I got a bunch of money.
Yeah, and Ryan's cheap.
So, and I want to get a leg up.
Wants to make candy tobacco, and Tenenbaum wants to work on the slug for Adam and stuff.
Guess who wins?
He never does make that candy tobacco.
Gross.
I like how excited Fontaine was of that idea, though, when they were talking to each other. Suchong was like, I want to make this and the candy. And Fontaine's like, yeah, that sounds great.
Fontaine is always about making an extra dollar, getting someone hooked on something so that he can raise the prices. Like, he is con man to the T.
Tenenbaum's like, I'm going to try to explain Adam. And he's like, I don't get it, but go for it.
Yeah, and it's like, here's some money, kid. And you develop your dreams. We jump again in time. We're in 1953, and Adam is now developed. It has to be re-energized with what they call Eve. But there's not enough Adam, and so they're gonna need human hosts.
Gross.
And it's addictive. But Fontaine says, even better.
It's like a weird addiction, though. To me, it doesn't feel like... It feels like you just want to feel stronger. Because remember when you jab yourself in the first game and you, like, freak out?
Because it's painful.
It doesn't seem enjoyable to, like, have your DNA rewritten. And then it's also causing, like, pustules to be grown.
Yeah, you're getting all of these, like, scars and tissue, and you look like a
It's probably
monster.
like tumors growing out of you because your cells are regenerating so fast.
But it's, like, noticeable, and it's not like you just have a little raise somewhere. It's like your whole face is now covered with growth.
This big cyst.
Yeah.
And so because of that, we also meet Dr. Steinman in this chapter.
Yes, who's a plastic surgeon. And a crazy person.
This is a little bit before he goes crazy, but he still thinks crazy because we can hear his thoughts in this book.
Because he talks about he meets with Aphrodite, who is a figment of his imagination, and she tells him about the underlying structures, what's there, and you meet Steinman really early in the first game.
He's the first mini boss.
You need his key to get somewhere, and he's all about like rearranging people's faces like Picasso. Yeah,
he doesn't like having to just lift them up like they asked.
No.
He wants to switch it around and make it weird.
We meet Sophia Lamb has a daughter, Eleanor. So they mentioned that she has conditioned Eleanor before.
To try to be... So the whole point of the second game is to go get Eleanor because she's trying to turn her into a utopian.
Yeah, but so they don't fully explain that in the book, though. Sophia Lamb is a psychologist, and she's playing with people's minds, but she's done it to her daughter. And they mention it in the book because... Yeah,
she turned her British, even though Sophia Lamb herself is not.
Yeah.
Which is really goofy. But also my problem with the second game. Unless her dad was British, which I don't know anything about her dad.
No.
So... I'm like, why are you British? Is it because you're a utopian, quote unquote? You want to sound like smart, like oh, pish posh?
Yeah, she stabs the analog thing, and so she's got some weird tendencies. I think it's supposed to be like a first reference to a little sister, because doesn't Eleanor become a little sister?
Yeah.
And then, that's because they take.
And then you're her big daddy in the second game, so then you got to go get her back.
We're already in chapter 10. We're halfway through the book.
Dang.
And we are in 1954 now. And finally, plasmids is what I have for my notes.
Yes.
Plasmids are the things that give you special abilities.
And it is grossing Fontaine out.
Yes.
He's seeing the stuff. He comes in the lab. He's like, how's my production going? And then it's like, ew, what is that? What are you guys doing? It's smelly in here.
Yeah. Suchong and Tenenbaum don't care, which is weird because you would think you would need a sterile environment to do a lot of these experiments.
Not in Rapture,
but
we have no code here. No, what's the health code thing in Jobs?
OSHA?
Yeah, no OSHA for the ocean.
And so plasmids have arrived. There are risks to being superhuman. They're highly addictive. It makes people go a little crazy. And you
Crazy
need
with power.
crazy with power. Yeah, and they're short tempered and
Was this the one where that guy killed his wife?
no, that's
Okay, are you sure?
that's the next chapter.
Okay.
Yeah, they're making people aggressive. Murder aggressive is what I put. Rapture, and this is chapter 10. We see Rapture starts to have a homeless problem.
Yes.
And they have orphans because people are dying and no one can leave.
No one can pay for their kid either. Yeah. They're all like losing their jobs.
They're losing their jobs, and then plasmids, of course, are expensive.
And you have to pay for like the heat here.
Yeah.
And so McDonough is like helping people out by turning on their heat secretly without Ryan knowing in the poor districts.
Because the water outside is super cold, and so you need constant heat, which they're by a volcanic fissure in the ocean.
Is that how they're doing heat?
Yeah, so that's how they're funneling heat and energy in. That's why they put the city where they did. And that's when you go to Hephaestus in the game, you kind of see all that stuff, and that's what runs their energy. But yeah, so they're orphans, and everyone's like, why are there orphans? Because people die.
Yeah.
And that's when Bill goes to fix the heat, they find the kid, and that's when
they find a dead kid in the heating pipes.
Yeah.
It's so gross and sad.
But of course, because Ryan's not about charity, he's like, orphanage? Why would you do that? They should be working, see? They're old enough to eat, they're old enough to work.
Oh, God.
Like, he does not say that in the book, that's just me.
That's
my Ryan
That's our interpretation of him.
Yeah, so by 1955, you start that chapter with the woman comes home and she's like, you spent all our money, and he's like, yeah, I had to get plasmids.
I'm the only one working in this house.
She's working. She's the one that has the
that's
money.
the lady.
Oh, yeah.
The lady's the only one working. The guy's spending all the money on plasmids, doesn't have a job because he wants to feel tough, so he puts like sport boost.
Yeah, because he's like, I'm going for a job interview. I need to be
beefy. So
and then he kills her.
Yeah, because she's like bothering him because he's like, make me food, woman. And she's like, no, I worked all day. You deal with yourself. And he's like, I hate you. And then he's like, injects himself and then lifts up a safe or something.
It was like a fridge or something.
And like throws it at her and it kills her. And he's like, wow, she was so weak and lame. And then he's like, I gotta get out of here.
He's like, oh man, though she was the one making all the money. But yeah, it's not the fact that she's dead. And
he's not even sad about it.
But he's just like, oh man, I don't have any more money for my plasmids.
And that's when I gave it 4 stars. Instead of 5, because I was like, what was this chapter besides just sexist?
But that, and then we find out that he's charging people for oxygen. Ryan.
I thought he was thinking about it. Is he actually doing it?
Because that's what, so the lady that owns all the trees, her name's Julie Langford, she runs the park.
Yes.
And she wanted the park as like a free thing, but Ryan's like, no, there's no free in Rapture. Like,
yeah, Ryan wants to charge for going to the park.
Yeah.
Making it like a date thing.
To see the trees.
And then I thought he was thinking about selling the oxygen. And so she talks to Bill about it. Because she's like, hey, Bill, can you talk to him? Because he likes you. And Bill's like, I don't actually think I could talk him out of this.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you have to pay for oxygen, which is like, but you can't leave. So that's, if I like don't agree to pay for this, what are my options?
I mean, there's no way he can cut off the oxygen of that whole area, right? How would you do that?
When you go through the doors, right, they're hermetically sealed. So
if they just like scan your thing, and if you're not paying, they just kill you.
They just close off that, like maybe it has to be a collective.
It seems like overly complicated to charge for oxygen.
Yeah. And then we also see the first form of sabotage.
Oh wait, before we do that, we're still in the Arcadia Park, and Cohen shows up with 2 dudes. He's helping pay their rent and stuff.
Sugar daddy.
Funny thing about that is those are the 2 dudes you have to kill for Cohen in the game.
Oh yeah,
And I read that part and then I played that section. I was like, hey, it's the record store guy and the thing that he was paying rent for, and he's like, oh, it's the guys you actually have to kill.
Yeah.
Because that scene seemed random, but it actually worked with the story.
Yes.
So I just like to very good
the
job.
The record store guy, so Cohen bought the record store so that guy could sell Cohen's records. And then
he's
out of favor with them.
Yeah, he started playing other records like Cohen's main rival which is this one lady
Is that
named Anna
Culpepper?
Culpepper. Yeah. That happens, I guess, later on, but still, that's the reason why you have to go kill him eventually, because he's like, traitor! Oh!
Yeah, Cohen sucks.
Sucks.
So we see sabotage.
Someone puts a bomb in the tunnel.
I can't even read my own handwriting here. I think it says, like, why doesn't Ryan see through? Maybe it's Frank or Fontaine, or I don't know. What's it?
I thought
more clearly.
He thought it was Sophia Lamb.
Yes, and her followers.
Her little cult that she created with her honeying words.
And then our next chapter, we see the Lutz family.
Who's the Lutz?
That's the family that gets their daughter taken.
Oh.
So he's a maintenance worker, and he goes to the lighthouse. His name is Sam Lutz, and we hear that heavy plasmid use had made people into something like rattlesnakes, not hurt by their own venom. So
the spider splicers start showing up too in this chapter. So it's splicers who are so spliced that they're crazy and they're crawling all over the walls.
Well, so that was brought up that was a plasmid that makes you climb up on the walls.
Was it?
That's what Bill says. He's like, well, maybe I should take that plasmid because it'd be easier to fix the walls if I could climb up them.
And we just didn't get it. Maybe they took it away. I don't know.
It's a weird. But yeah, they have these little hooks that they go around with, and they just climb on the walls, and they're super crazy.
Yeah, the scariest part of the game, to be honest.
And then we also see Fontaine opens an orphanage, not out of the kindness of his heart, though, because he needs human hosts for the slugs to make plasmids.
Yeah, and they notice that little girls are the best ones for some reason.
Which is why their side of the orphanage is way cooler than whatever the boys' side is. I don't even think we see the boys' side.
We do not see the boys' side.
And yeah, so they are gonna plant slugs into these kids, and Fontaine's like, well, that's weird, but all right.
You do you, guys.
My note here says Suchong is definitely the worst, but Fontaine and Tenenbaum are close second. Because Suchong does not give a second thought. He's like, of course we would. Why would we not?
No,
kids are gross.
I think he was the one who said that line where they were like, well, if they start eating, then like they're useful.
Yeah.
I also put about the Sophia Lamb and Ryan publicly debating.
Yeah, that was weird.
So he's like, I'm going to debate her in public and everyone's going to see that she's a fraud. Which is an audio log you can listen to in the second game. And then he basically doesn't change anyone's mind.
No. And she's good at debating. Yeah. And he doesn't realize why. And
then he just puts her in jail.
Yeah. He's like, well, fine, I didn't win that, so I'm going to out and put you in jail.
I lost the debate, so I'm going to put you in jail.
Oh, we do see the Persephone, which is the prison, which is in the detainment center, is in the second game. Yep. We also see Johnny Topside, who, he's looking for lost girls. He's a deep sea diver, and that's like your first hint at the Big Daddy. Yeah, he's this big, strong dude. He ends up being Persephone.
Your main character in the second game. Mm-hmm. You're Johnny Topside. That's not your real name? No.
No, I don't think
it sounds like such a.
It's a name that they give him.
Hey, it's Johnny Topside.
Hey, look, see. And then Fontaine also has a center for the poor.
Yeah, he has poorhouses and an orphanage,
but not out of the kindness of his heart.
Out of profit.
Yes. And because he wants Ryan to look like a jackass.
Well, he's doing a good job.
Yes. But Ryan doesn't, he doesn't need Fontaine's help to do that.
No, yeah. He'll sabotage himself.
Like Ryan?
No. Nobody likes Ryan.
Bill's like, we're friends. And even
after all of it.
He's like, yeah, I understand.
Yeah. Like, you can see where Ryan's coming from, but Ryan's just straight up a jackass.
Yeah.
He's like, honestly, probably my least favorite character. Because he just talks himself in circles and he's bad at it.
But he's charismatic, but at the same time, he's not. I think he's more charismatic because he has everything and everyone wants something from him. And so that's why they call him charismatic. But
he's basically just the king of Rapture that everyone is trying to appease, but he just sucks.
For me, I still think Suchong
has zero morals.
He does not. He talks about himself in the third person, and he's just like, yeah, of course I'm going to do this. Why would I not? Like, I have the ability to do it. Let me do it.
No,
And he doesn't change at all. Like, Suchong
no,
is
he
the only
doesn't.
character that does not change throughout the whole story. Where in 1956, the splicers can teleport.
Yeah,
and
the teleport plasmid got made.
Why? Why is that a thing?
Uh,
That's the one part where Ryan's like, oh, that means they can leave. Let's not have this plasmid.
yeah, going too far. They're going into like secure like areas they definitely shouldn't be going.
I think here is where we see the council. They all meet, and you kind of see who's on the council. Why Anna Culpepper is on this council.
Yeah, I don't think Ryan knows either.
Ryan Culpepper is a singer who created the theme for Rapture, but everyone's like, why are you on here? Like, you have nothing to say. But I guess she's part of the propaganda machine. But Cohen's also there, but he excused himself because he's going to go play with his
he's killing people while high on plasmids.
Yeah. But we have the council, and he's like, well, what are we going to do about these plasmids, see? And instead of being like, hey, let's outlaw them, because that's not allowed, he's like, we need to be a part of the competition, and I need to get my hands and be part of this. Yeah. So he's like, this is a good idea, guys.
Let's make our own plasmids.
And everyone's like, how do you do that?
Yeah, we don't know how to do that. I also just put that Fontaine is getting his face changed.
Oh, yeah, he got the plastic surgery. So this comes later, but they don't actually say it in the story.
They don't?
No. So later on, Frank Fontaine dies, but from this chapter,
they say it in this chapter, right?
No. So in chapter 13, Fontaine talks to what's the name of the Steinman. Thank you. I almost said Claire. It's like too many S names. That he wants to change his face, but he also wants this other guy to look just like him.
Yeah.
And so and then it's not mentioned anywhere else in the story. It's just mentioned in this chapter.
He said in the chapter, he was like, we look somewhat similar.
Yeah, we need to look alike.
Yeah, so we need to switch faces.
But basically. Then they don't talk about it after that.
They don't, but that's important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's important. And then we're in the next chapter where Fontaine and Ryan have to come to some sort of truce.
Yeah, because Sullivan goes to investigate a Fontaine sub because they think they're smuggling, and then the sub blows up.
They're smuggling.
Yeah, so he goes over there, and then the sub blows up, and there's like a fire between Fontaine's men, quote unquote, because they're splicers.
Yeah,
and the cops. And Ryan's cops. So, and then that blows up, and then Ryan and Fontaine agree to meet because of that whole kerfuffle, and they argue about plasmids and smuggling.
And so Fontaine says, here's the deal. If you don't look into me, if you let me do my thing, we won't do teleport. Which I'm like, you already created it. So.
Yeah. Basically, he was like, teleport's also a problem, so I will stop that one.
Yes. So we'll trade the, like, you let me be, and then...
You let me smuggle... And basically,
yeah,
wink, wink, and I'll stop teleporting.
And so Ryan's like, I guess
close to not what he wanted, but
but he's like, whatever. I'll get you later. See?
Yeah, he's like, what's the best I'm gonna get right now?
And then Jolene, or what's her first name?
Jasmine.
Jolene. She's a stripper.
Mm-hmm. Ryan's favorite gal.
Yeah.
Okay, listen. So he has a girlfriend. It's Diane, who is his secretary, McClintock. Girlfriend.
Who he ditches all the time.
Yeah, so at like this meeting, he was like, oh, she wants to get married, which, ew, I can't even imagine. So he's like tried to hook her up with someone else too.
Oh, he's tried to pawn her off.
Yeah, and that didn't work. And also, so Jasmine Jolene is the stripper he's been sleeping with on the side, but on the posters in BioShock 1, it says Andrew Ryan's favorite gal, Jasmine Jolene. So poor Diane McClintock. Like, I know she's like an airhead and...
Well, she's in it for the money. I don't feel like she really loves Ryan. I think she loves what Ryan can give her.
Yes. But still, like... So obvious. Just break up with her.
Well, because Diane even says, like, I know there's other gals.
Oh.
But
she can't break up with Ryan either because if you're homeless in Rapture, you just die, so.
Yeah. And so Jolene has something to tell Ryan.
Yeah, after they've been doing stuff.
In the back room. And then we see our first poster with Who is Atlas? Which I don't know if this is true, but I'm just gonna say it because I feel like it is a reference to Who is John Galt from Atlas Shrugged.
I mean, probably
because he says we find out where Atlas gets his name which is from the Titan Alice, who has the world on his shoulder. But I feel like it's a nod to Atlas Shrugged, who we have the line, who's John Galt, who's an engineer who disappears, and that's throughout the book.
But Atlas is very much a person.
Yes.
He's just doing charity work. So yeah, Jasmine's pregnant, and she decides not to tell Ryan about it. Because he's going to be so mad.
Mr. Ryan's gonna be mad at me. And this brings us to the third Age of Rapture, which is part 3
downfall of Rapture.
And so we start on chapter 15, so within, 5-6 chapters, like, things move so fast.
A lot of stuff happens in this chapter.
So we start in 1957. Sophia Lamb, who was imprisoned in Persephone, she decides to take over, because she's been doing work for the warden. Because why would you have a prisoner do psychological analysis on all of your prisoners?
Because you don't have another psychologist in all of Rapture.
So she is also implementing not only her own jargon, but she's doing some mind control manipulation stuff.
Yep, which caused her to be able to take over the entire prison.
She's like, it's mine now.
Ryan started to enforce a curfew. He also is now like, you know what? I can't stop Fontaine, so I might as well take over his plasmid business.
Yes, so he decides that screw this free thing.
Men killed some cops.
Oh, they've been killing them like all the time because they're looking into the smuggling, and so of course his people are also splicers, so they're a little crazy. But we see Fontaine.
But Ryan also has splicers working for him
later. Yeah. We see Fontaine is working on pamphlets, and it's the Atlas pamphlet. So this is why you should not read this book before you play the game, because spoiler alert.
Atlas is Fontaine.
That was so enthusiastic. It was like because you don't really know who Fontaine is while you play the game.
You hear the bad dude. People talk about him, like one dude named Peach Wilkins. Funny thing, Peach Wilkins, who's like the second boss, because he's in the cannery, he is one of Fontaine's men, and then Fontaine will die, quote unquote, eventually, and then you're talking to Atlas, and then you go talk to Peach in the game, and Peach is like, are you one of Fontaine's men? Get out of here. And I was like, wait a second, but you were Fontaine's man.
He was like his right-hand man. He was like his skipper or whatever it was on the boat.
I guess he's just scared that he's not, but he's like, didn't betray him or anything.
No, he's just crazy.
It's confusing.
He's the one that gives you the camera in the book.
Go take pictures for me.
Yeah, so do research so you can kill all the people. Fontaine's working on Atlas's pamphlets. He's using John Reed's Lives of the Soviet Idealists. He's also borrowing from Sophia Lamb. You'll see later when Atlas speaks that he takes things from other people's speeches.
Yeah.
So he's definitely Mr. Con Man is just plagiarizing all of his things. But I mean,
all the crimes.
Yeah. And then we get Reggie, who is Fontaine's hitman, is killing the constables so that Fontaine can die. Fontaine in this chapter is like, yeah, I need to stop being Fontaine now because it's dangerous. So there's like hangings as well. And
there's public hangings.
But so I was not clear on this point. Is these hangings from Ryan, or are these hangings that splicers are doing?
I thought these are from Ryan, based on what Bill says later on.
But they have that happens later.
In the second game, there's there's hangings that say smuggler, right? In the thing. But in the second game, there's this whole place that has a bunch of hanged people that says like Gene Trader or something like that. So I don't really know. That sounds like a splicer thing to say, but based on what Bill was saying, he's like, this has to stop.
Capital punishment comes later in another chapter, which is why they start hanging people and leaving their corpses there as like warnings. But everyone's like, it smells even worse.
Now it smells like corpses. Add that to your candle flavoring.
Please don't make that candle. And then in the end of chapter 15, Suchong takes the fertilized egg from Jasmine Jolene.
Yeah, they make an offer to Jasmine to buy her baby, basically. And so the plot of BioShock 1 can happen.
Yes. And then Fontaine is like listening. Suchong's like, oh yeah, I can totally condition this fetus
To kill puppies.
Yeah.
Easy.
But that's not how that works. He's gonna do it before it's even born, which
Yeah.
conditioning doesn't work that way. But
He's like, yeah, I can make a basic slave for you, Fontaine. Sure, go ahead. Fontaine, like, can he kill puppies? Because that's the real test. Can he kill puppies?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I can kill puppies.
like a little kid, they love dogs, they love puppies, but could you make it kill it? And you're like, what is wrong with you people?
They're getting stir crazy down under the ocean.
So we're in 1958. This is where the capital punishments come in Rapture, where they're just killing people for smuggling. The main crime is smuggling. They don't want.
They hate Bibles.
And there is a raid planned to take all of Fontaine's businesses, not just Fontaine Futuristics that's making the plasmids. He wants all of Fontaine's stuff, which is ironic because that's why Fontaine's doing all this, because he wants all of Ryan's stuff. So he's playing right into his hands, and he doesn't even know it.
Also, they're very similar.
They are. Ryan feels like he has this ideology that's pure, and Fontaine's like, we're the same.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's like, we're both lying to people, but Ryan believes the lie, where Fontaine's like, I'm just going to do what I got to do.
At least, I guess, he's not even true about it. I was about to say, like, Fontaine's true about it, but I guess he's true about it to himself.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm being a jackass, but, like, that's just I'm just a con man. See?
So they plan this raid, they go in guns blazing, but guess who's waiting for them?
Fontaine?
All the splicers.
And
because Fontaine has a splicer army with all the plasmids, and most of the I don't think any of the people fighting have plasmids, do they?
Oh, on Ryan's side?
Yeah, they just have
I don't think
guns.
so. Yeah. No, well, maybe some of them, because I remember, it's weird that they brought Bill also, McDonough, to help raid Fontaine Futuristics, where he's just a plumber.
Now he's got to shoot people.
And doesn't his, like, co-plumber friend have plasmids? Because when they were doing vent work, he, like...
No, it was someone, like, a freelance.
He, like, electrocuted a couple stuff to help with the work.
Like, that's why we brought this guy. This shifty-looking
They're trying to explain how, like, plasmids can be used for work. And I think that's how they're getting by. Yeah. Instead of just, like, be cool and light your friend on fire. It's like, you can use it to light your fireplace with the snap of your fingers. Impress women.
Oh yeah, like all the... Well, that becomes later when Ryan takes over the plasmids. And
he's trying to make it, like, functional. He's lying to everybody. Yes, being like, look, it's functional.
Hey kids, be cool. Get plasmids. So they kill a bunch of people die, and then Cavendish kills Fontaine. But Bill makes a statement where he's like, well, Fontaine's acting sure funny. That's not quite how
he's shooting guns weird. Yeah. That's not how I know Fontaine would shoot guns.
Which is your hint that it's not Fontaine.
Yeah, but the world thinks Fontaine is killed, quote unquote.
And hence the birth of Atlas.
Oh, also in this chapter, they're starting to brainwash Jack, who is the baby of Andrew Ryan.
Yeah, so he's now a toddler in some fluid.
And Jasmine Jolene.
And he's being conditioned to kill puppies. And they comment that he needs to go to the surface soon. So he's only, like, 1 here, right?
Yeah. That's why I thought he went up at 2. But it turns out he went up at 4. Which is...
There's no way.
Well, that's why this is a little bit different.
Okay. Yeah, this does not make sense. So that was the thing. BioShock 1 takes place in 1960. You are like 18?
I'm saying you're 18. I'm not 100%.
You're a man.
You look like a man. But they also are saying Jack's growing at a rapid rate because he's an experiment baby.
Yeah, Suchong decided he doesn't like kids for real. And he's like, why do we even have kids? We should just super grow them. And then they don't even have to be kids. And Tannenbaum's like, well,
Tannenbaum is starting to care about kids.
Yeah, she's like, I remember my childhood. Chapter. Like, that's
my parents cared about me.
Yeah, you should be kids. And Suchong's like, ew, kids are gross.
I can't even imagine being a kid. Yeah. Like, I was never a kid. I'm Suchong. Like,
so he has accelerated Jack.
So honestly, Jack could be like 10 in this game, and he looks like he's 30.
He's not even 10. But in the book, he would have been 4 at the most.
When the events of BioShock 1 took place?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Because in 1957, that's when they get the fertilized egg. And
Do you know you're playing a 4-year-old in the
so
first
that's like
BioShock
that's
game?
3 years. So 4 years maximum.
He just accelerated his growth.
But so they send this little toddler to the surface, and in 2 years he ages
Hecka.
like 16
and then
years.
starts smoking and drinking,
Yes.
and they told me you were
That's
I
gotta
was
be
special.
so- Imagine the growth pains of that.
Well, that's probably why like, because the end of BioShock 1, in the actual ending, he dies, and then all the little sisters,
Mhm.
hold his hand, and they're all like middle-aged.
Yeah.
So I would assume he just like rapid dies.
Yeah.
Probably.
That's probably the problem, Suchong, if you ever thought about it,
Yeah.
of rapid growth.
The
It's
sooner
rapid death.
you get older, the sooner you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Happy Death Day.
That's happened in chapter 16.
Yes. And then 17 is again the birth of Atlas. He is making speeches similar to Louis Kingfish Huey. And he is protected by splicers, which Fontaine was protected by splicers. And Atlas also has all the Adam that is missing from Fontaine's future.
No, not suspicious at all. They're different people.
People are dumb. But he looks different, right? Because Steinman has given him
Yeah, he gave him hair, so it's different. And he has an accent. He's different.
He's Irish.
It's so funny to look at the picture of Fontaine and Atlas next to each other, because the only difference is one has hair, one doesn't. One has a mustache, one doesn't.
Yeah.
Accent is different.
Well, I mean, you have what Superman and Clark Kent. The only difference is their friggin' glasses and the little curly Q on his forehead. Whatever. Leap of faith. And this is so Atlas is now making speeches about people we should unionize and let's take care of each other, and
everybody loves him.
yes, because he's feeding the poor.
Yes, he's doing actual good charity work.
But he's doing it
taking over the Fontaine charity work.
not out of the goodness of his heart, but because he wants something. Suchong then thinks that Adam can be taken from the dead. We find out, but it has to be sensed by the little sisters who are growing the slugs in their bellies.
Yeah, they put slugs inside little girls' bellies and are planning on using them to collect the Adam from the dead people.
But that also makes them not age, and they creep everyone out. And so, but that senses Adam, and then they're like, well, they need to be protected, and they don't like people, so...
Yeah, because the splicers are attacking them.
Yeah, because of that.
So they're like, well, we need somebody to watch them, but everyone else is creeped out by them, so we need to make something to protect them.
And the reason why they need more Adam is because when the raid happened, they were just shooting, like, everything, and they lost a bunch of their
Recycle.
slugs.
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
That is communist. So then they're like, hey, let's have these big daddies, which is what the little sisters call them.
Mm-hmm.
But your first big daddy is Johnny Topside, and his little sister is Eleanor Lamb. Which does Lamb know that her daughter was taken, or does she even care?
So here's what happened in 2. I don't know if this helps, but so Lamb goes to jail, and she gave her daughter to this nanny. And then she had like a retreat somewhere, and her retreat got taken over by this one dude, Pool?
Oh, yeah.
It got taken over by Pool, and he was like spending all her money and partying and like, messing around. So Eleanor went over there to be like, how dare you use my mom's stuff and her money? And then he was like, you know what? I'm throwing you in the orphanage. So he picked her up and he threw her in the orphanage, and they were like, yeah, test subject. And then they used her because she was special. Mm. And she apparently is the basis for all the little sisters. So she was the first one.
Yes.
So
I remember that. Because
she was special and whatever. And British. Let's go.
Yeah. Diane goes to see Atlas. She is over Ryan.
She wants to sleep with Atlas now.
Because that's the only thing she has to offer.
Men in power are so hot.
She said something interesting, though, that I wrote down, and sometimes it seemed to Diane that everyone in Rapture had already died. And then she thinks about the Edgar Allan Poe's poem, Sunken City, which I thought was a nice little tie-in. I don't know if it was anything, but it is kind of like everyone is already dead, and you're kind of in this nightmare because all the splicers. But there's like 8. Do you think everyone is using plasmids? Because we know Bill's not. We know Ryan's not. Diane's not.
Our main characters are not, really. Fontaine didn't until the events of the first BioShock
Because
game.
he knew that there were side effects. And
And
he's
they
like,
were
can you make me
addicted.
some plasmids that don't have side effects?
Yeah.
Like, for the cool people?
Because there's like a line at the end of the first BioShock where he's like, I never used this stuff. I just peddled it. But now I'm going to use it to fight you, Jack. Haha.
Yeah.
And then he like over injects himself.
He makes a comment, though, to Tannenbaum that he's like, I'm going to need this, like, not to be addictive and give me facial scars. Like,
can you do that? And she's like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Well, she's like, well, it won't be addictive if we do that. And he's like, all right, I see your point there, and I need to sell this stuff, so just for me.
Just for me.
Just for the right people.
I have Bill is teaching his wife to defend herself because Rapture's going crazy.
Yeah, I like Elaine. I like Bill and Elaine. I think they're the
Good
heroes.
couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at first she's like, I don't want to shoot people. And he's like, well, I shot people. You're going to have to learn. And she's like, fine.
Yeah, these spies are crazy.
Yeah. And so he's teaching her how to shoot at a shooting gallery, which is kind of cute. At the park.
At the park.
Good couple. I like them. Because then when they go to the New Year's Eve party, which is the first audio log, is it not?
It is. From Diane.
Yeah. She got stood up again, see? They're at New Year's Eve, and then this is from 1958 to 1959.
Yep.
So, 3, 2, 1, Happy New Year's! Explosion. Splicers come in, and one of them hits Diane in the face. She's got facial scars.
Yeah.
Bill and Elaine protecting each other. They're so cute.
People are just mad that Fontaine died, and
long live Atlas.
Yep. And that's what happens. That's the first audio log you hear. And I think the first area you enter is the place that explodes.
Yes, that's the New Year's party.
Yeah, it's like a restaurant.
Bill goes to Ryan and tells him to give up Fontaine Futuristics because Ryan just took it. And he's like, that's not the spirit of this place. You're talking about free markets, but you forcefully took, and this is what's causing the Civil War. So get your act together, Ryan.
Yeah. You're going against what you stood for, basically.
Yeah. And then this is a side note. I'm like, where does Ryan get off telling Bill that he had to do this because people died? Ryan wasn't even there. Bill was for both times.
Yeah.
He's like, see, Bill, people died for this. And Bill's like, yeah, I was there, jackass.
And Bill's like, I don't think he's just using that as an excuse. He doesn't actually care about the people that died.
Bill. And he's like, I was there both times. And then we see the banks. There's rumors that the splicers are going to hit the banks. So everyone goes to take their money. Anna Culpepper is turned on Ryan. She's singing a weird protest song.
Yeah, she's singing protest songs against Ryan about how Ryan sucks. So Ryan's like, I'm going to have her killed.
Yeah. But Ryan doesn't care that people taking all the money out of the bank is going to destroy the market. He's like, well, that's the consequence.
I guess.
I'm like, but that also affects you because that's your own money, Rapture money.
Ryan's dumb. Yeah. He never thinks ahead. He just thinks of himself.
He's like, well, they'll feel the consequences because I'm here in my little place.
Made me so happy to beat him over the head with a golf club in the first game. I was like, I can't wait, because at first I was sad because I'm like, oh, the first time you played, you're like, oh, it's your dad. That's sad. And then I'm like, you know what? Fuck Ryan. He sucks so much. He deserves everything that came to him. And look, okay, here's my one beef. My beef is, so before, at the end of the game, when you find out you're being mind controlled by Atlas Fontaine, and you pop in through the vent and you see that Ryan has been going full conspiracy theory with the Would You Kindly.
Yeah.
In his office, he's like, okay, I pieced it together. You're my son. You've been brainwashed. You came down here to kill me on Fontaine's orders, and this is your code phrase. And then you walk into his office, and he does his little cutscene where he's like, I know your secret word. Now let me, like, play with you a little bit. He makes you sit up, sit down, and run around.
Yeah.
And then this dumbass is like, kill me. Do it. He's like, you know, if you were stronger in your brain, then you wouldn't do it. And then you hit him and he dies. And I'm like, dude, you figured it out. Like, you figured it out. And I think the best move for you would have just been like, would you kindly kill Fontaine? And then have to deal with that thing. Because that would have made more sense. But Ryan, being the dumbass that he is like,
he doesn't understand people. And that's the biggest thing, where he's like, oh, well, you should have, like, this happens before with the free markets. He's like, if you want something, you'll work for it. But it's like, when everything is against you, that's not a possibility. Like,
I
he
think
starts with all the money, so he doesn't understand what it's like to live in these poor houses. He's like, well, they just pick themselves up from their bootstraps, see? But the same thing, he's like, how could you be conditioned when
yeah,
it's your choice?
he doesn't understand science.
No, he really does not.
And I think that scene would have worked better if he didn't have that whole conspiracy theory board up there. Like, he figured it out. Like, if he just didn't know, and then he was like, oh, just use your brain and work through it, then I'd be like, okay, yeah, he just didn't know.
Yeah.
But he knew. He did that whole thing so that you could have your little, like, revelation moment. And then
That was that. So
it's
like,
a cool scene.
The first time you play the game, you're like, oh shit. Like,
Yeah.
Because you don't realize that he says that phrase.
Because he
all
only
the
says
time.
it, like, only, like, 4 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I replayed it, I was like, Ryan's so stupid. He deserves everything he got. Okay, so we were on chapter...
We're now on the last 3 chapters, chapter 18, 19, and 20. So we're in 1959, which is the last year of the book, because BioShock 1 starts in 1960.
Okay.
Or at least I think so.
That makes sense.
That's what the wiki told me.
Fair enough.
We start with Diane. She is scarred from the New Year's party, and Ryan's like, oh, she's complaining all the time that she's scarred. But she goes to meet Atlas to join his side. She wants to talk to him about his philosophy. So Diane and Fontaine knew each other because Fontaine tried to her at another party to get to Ryan because he doesn't really care about anyone.
No. It was like at like a Cohen show, wasn't it? And
so
she was like, oh, I'm getting stood up again. And so he's like, oh,
sit next to me, girlie.
Oh, your boyfriend's not here? That's such a shame.
And so she joins his side because she's like, screw Ryan.
Yeah, fair enough, though.
Yeah.
She came down to the poor district, and she was like, I don't care if they kill me. She's like, they'll either kill me or...
The reason why she jumps over, too, is because Ryan now has people with plasmas, and he's just, like, killing people.
Yeah.
Which is against the rules, but Ryan, again...
What owns the city, so there are no rules for Ryan.
We see that Tenenbaum is remembering her own childhood.
Yeah.
And what happened to her with the Germans taking her father, and she's like, what have I done? I will be your mother, little girls.
She now cares about the little girls, and she goes rogue.
Yeah.
And decides to take them and run away.
And then this is Sullivan. This is the Sullivan arc.
Oh, yeah.
He's drinking all the time now. Remember, Sullivan is the head of security. And
so he's like main cop. He wants to go talk to Bill.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, here's Anna Culpepper. Do you think what she's doing is illegal? And Bill's like, no. that should be fine. Or here's what Peach Wilkins. Do you think what he's doing is that illegal? And Bill's like, no. it's not that bad.
And that's where he tells Bill about Cohen. That he's a murderer. And he's like, well, that's bad.
Yeah, well, what Cohen's doing is bad. And he's like, and then Cohen gets away with it. The other two are getting like...
He's like, we can't talk about this because people are listening. I'm going to leave. And then Bill, he's got to protect his family. So he just kind of leaves.
This is when Sullivan tells Bill that he killed Anna.
Oh, and that there's tortures happening in Persephone because Bill's like, I didn't know about this. And he's like, yeah, Ryan didn't want you to know. And he's like,
Ryan didn't want you to think poorly of him.
But yeah, I've been torturing people in the jail. And because at first Bill was like, we have a jail?
Yeah. We have a jail here?
And they're like, yeah, you weren't supposed to know about that. But, and then I like Tenenbaum's escape plan.
It was interesting for sure.
It's very...
What?
It's like it's something Tenenbaum would think of, but also not. So Tenenbaum had a relationship with Fontaine because she's a lady and she's got needs, but she's like, don't touch me.
Yeah.
I
don't like being touched.
Yeah.
And Fontaine's like, I don't think this is gonna work if you don't like being touched.
And then Tenenbaum's like, I'm gonna fight back, but just because I have to in order to get this done. So that was weird. That was previous chapters.
Super weird.
So she goes and she has this bottle of vodka.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, hey, boys. It's the guards that are protecting making sure she doesn't leave. And she's like, you want to come party with me in the showers? And they're like, no. She's like, well, here, I have some vodka for you.
Yeah, another dude walks in and he's like, whoa, is that vodka? Can I have some of that?
And so she's like, I'm going to turn the cameras off and meet you in the showers. And then they're like, well, we'd rather just drink the vodka.
Yeah, they just want the vodka.
And then it's drugged, so they all pass out. And she's like, dos vidanias. And her and the little sisters, like, tail it out of it. And, like, she's like, okay, girls, we going to play a game. Like, you be as quiet as a ghost. And the little sisters are like, the ghost is so loud. They're like, okay, be quieter than the ghost then. And then she leaves. She takes some canned food and she's got a secret apartment.
Yeah.
That she
like
goes,
underground.
Yeah,
and stuff.
she goes to take the little sisters too. And I like how Ryan doesn't know that Tenenbaum left. Like, no one told her. No one told him.
Yeah.
But Suchong's like, oh yeah, we can't do that because Tenenbaum's not working. And he's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, she like dipped out with a bunch of the little sisters.
I like how Suchong doesn't even care either.
Yeah.
He's like, she just left.
She was having women issues.
Yeah, so whatever. And he's like, what? You don't care? And he's like, no.
And then Sullivan, well, poor Sullivan, he's having issues with what he's been doing because he killed Anna Culpepper. Ryan tells him to do it, and
he strangles her in the bathtub.
He like drowns her, and then he takes her blanket that she was.
He feels bad. He's like, oh, it wasn't done yet.
Yeah, she's like crocheting a blanket, and
he's like, oh, she never got to finish the blanket.
Like it. It was nice. And then he sends Ryan an audio or a letter that says
a suicide note, basically.
By the time you read this, they'll be dead. And by the way, here's an audio recording of why Jasmine Jolene's been avoiding you. So Ryan finds out.
Yeah. Also, this is when Suchong starts the pheromone controls for the splicers for Ryan.
Yeah. So pheromones, which scientifically, a lot of people. So outside the book, in reality.
So Ryan can control the splicers by the time you play the game.
Yes, because they make a comment of it like super early on, which is...
I was like, I'm confused. So I was like, can he control them, or are they just coming after you because he put a bounty on your head?
He like...
And I think it's like a mixture of both.
Yeah.
He can control where they're going?
He's got all the Atom, too.
Yeah.
Which is what Fontaine used and what Alice uses to... manipulate the splicers is like, I've got your drugs.
Yeah.
Do something for me and I will give them to you. But pheromones, there is scientific things behind pheromones. Is we are attracted to certain smells and they have reactions to our brains, but we've come to find out most people don't have the connection between those parts of our nose and brains. Only a small select few do. So when people are like, oh, I was attracted to him, it's pheromones.
Smell.
It's like a mating thing, and it happens in animals more than people. But so by certain smells, condition your brain to do things. Just
mind control.
Sort of mind control, but yeah. In reality, though, pheromones don't really work on us.
Is that a new study? I didn't really hear about that before.
Oh, that pheromones don't really work on us?
Yeah.
It's just one of those like not really well known.
Mm.
It's like Inuits do not have 100 different words for snow. That was a sociological experiment to see how.
What's the percentage of people that it does work on?
I haven't read the study in a long time, but it was it was a small percentage.
Probably they just sprayed perfume and was like, anything that smells good, because Rapture's stinky. they all came to it.
That is when you get the ignite. That's when you find out about the pheromones, because it's in the audio recording, which is really early on in the first game, where he's like, "Oh yeah,"
and there's spilled oil everywhere. Yeah. So on top of that, you got all the gasoline smell. Ew.
Rapture, gross.
Anyway, that's all that happened in that chapter.
But again, because we're pretty much almost done with the last two chapters. Yep. The first thing I have for chapter 19, because Bill is in the garden and he makes a comment, and I said, thank you for addressing all the syringes and bullets just all over the place in the game. He actually addressed it, so great job, Shirley, for being like, what the crap? Why are there all these syringes? It's because people are drug addicts and they're fighting each other, so there's just bullets and syringes all over the place. And he's like, yeah, this doesn't seem like a safe place to bring my daughter to the park where there's these things around, so...
But there's like full syringes in the game.
I appreciate you.
But yeah, little girls are starting to get just taken.
Yes. So they are distracted, but I feel like it was a setup.
You think so?
Because I think Ryan wants
McDonald's kid. You think?
Yeah.
Because he's just stealing little girls now. He's not even playing orphanage anymore. He's just trying to steal little girls that he sees.
Yeah, he needs little sisters. So that now that Tenenbaum left with a bunch of little sisters, he's like, we need some more little girls. So let's just steal them.
Yeah.
And they take Masha, who is the Lutz's daughter and a friend of Bill's daughter, Sophia.
Yes.
No, that's Sophia.
Yeah, Sophia.
That's his daughter. Okay. And so yeah, they take both of the girls, but only one is actually taken.
Because I Sophia escaped.
Don't you dare take Bill's daughter. I was about to throw a hissy fit. And then Ryan also kills Jasmine.
Yeah, he finds out that they sold their kid, so he strangles her to death. And this was funny because this was one of the things that I saw online that people were like, that's not what happens, because if you go into her death room, there's like blood everywhere and stuff. Yeah. Like he bashed her head in with a pipe, I think is what they were trying to imply in the game.
Mr. Ryan's gonna be so mad at me.
So, like, honestly, minute little things.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Then Bill, Sophia, and Elaine, they're with Ryan, and they see one of the little sisters.
And a big daddy. And
they're like, that little girl looks familiar.
Yeah, and they also explain that big daddies are actually made from the criminals of Rapture. So anyone who goes into Persephone is getting turned into a big daddy, basically. So they're stealing little girls, and they're taking prisoners, and they're turning them into...
But again, a man chooses. No one chooses that. Like, that's...
Yeah, they didn't choose to become a big daddy.
Punishment, yeah. That's chosen for them. And so, Sophia's like, oh, that's my friend. And she, like, looks at her, and then, like, oh, she's not one of us. I'll have to wait till she becomes an angel to play with her. And you're like, oh, no. Creepy. That's why these little kids are creepy. And then Ryan just, like, looks at Sophia. That's why I'm like, you best not be taking your friend's daughter. Like, it's bad enough you're stealing random little girls. Yeah, that is pretty bad.
And man, that was a quick turnaround, too. Between, turning the little girl into a little sister.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that just happened, and then all of a sudden, like a couple chapters later.
Yeah, I mean, but it's been 1959 for a couple chapters. Like this is the longest year.
You just have them eat a slug, and then all of a sudden they turn gray and their eyes glow.
It said in the book that they, like, implanted them in there.
Close enough. I'm just, making an assumption.
Right. It's still gross. And then Diane tells Ryan in a letter that she's joined Atlas. Why she does that, I don't know.
Because she's petty.
Yeah.
She always has been. Also, Ryan is talking about how he's working on Circus of Values and Vita chambers to cure people.
Circus of Value.
God. So that was a fun little, like, oh, those are getting worked on, or those are made now. To try to, like, help the economy and to cure light wounds in the Vita chambers. So, trying.
And then we have our last chapter.
Yep, a lot happened.
Yeah. I appreciate Bill. Like, he was like, I see Masha. That's my friend's kid. She's with a big daddy. I'm gonna go get her. Like, you distract her.
Yeah. He tries.
And then he's like, no. His friend, I forgot what his name is. It's the Russian guy. But
it's the Karlovsky.
Yeah, he's like, watch what happens, because the Splicer tries to take the little sister, and the big daddy, like, murders him.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, you distract the big daddy. He's like, I don't want to die. And he's like, it's okay, you can run fast. And so he tries to take her, but it is unsuccessful. The big daddy doesn't kill him, though.
No, the big daddy doesn't kill him. He just like scrapes him a little bit.
Pushes him against, like, knocks him out. And then Diane finds out about Atlas because he's doing an audio recording, but as Fontaine and not as Atlas. And she's like, I know that voice.
Yeah, so, but wait, before this happens, you have Dr. Steinman being creepy. Go back to Dr. Steinman. He killed his assistant. He's just experimenting on patients.
And he put her face in the freezer so that he could use it on someone else.
And he's just experimenting with patients on Adam. He's like, well, I wonder why I don't have any patients anymore. I have to just kidnap people now.
Yeah, he got the person he's working on, he got from Cohen because she, like, cheated Cohen.
Yeah.
His machine.
So he's working with Cohen, but he hates Cohen. He's like, Cohen's too weird for me. He's like too much of a crazy freak as he's like experimenting
He's
on
like,
this woman.
what if I regrow her face and then
It would be a bad look for me to hang out with Cohen.
But like Steinman, you'd only see like a couple times.
He's the first mini boss, and you kill him so fast.
Yeah, he's crazy.
And then Diane went on a raid for Atlas. And then she was like, I'm gonna go tell Atlas about our successful raid. And then he's like talking into his sound thing. Yeah, it's me, Frank Fontaine. And then she comes in and he's like, wait a minute. And he's like, top of the morning to ya. And he's like, you know what? Fuck it. I've already been seen.
He stabbed her, she dies.
He stabbed her in the stomach. Sad.
I mean, you could have stabbed her in the face, but
the stomach is so like,
yeah,
just bleed out. It's so bad.
And then we get to the point where Bill decides like enough is enough. Like,
I'm gonna kill Ryan.
I have to kill Ryan.
And I have to get my family out of here.
So he makes a plan with a friend where he has like a way out, and I don't know how they're gonna get off the freaking lighthouse in the middle of the ocean, but they have a plan somehow, and
maybe they have a tiny little rowboat there or something. I don't know.
So he's like, I'm gonna kill Ryan. I'm gonna meet my wife and daughter at this place, and we're gonna go. But when he plans to kill Ryan, he plans on not leaving. Like, he's like, I need to fix this place. They're gonna leave, but I'm gonna stay and fix this place because I have a moral obligation to the people.
Yeah, what a good guy.
And then he goes
to pull a gun on Ryan.
Yeah, I have the one of the quotes again that I really liked was Ryan had built his brave new world to match his dream, and it had become a nightmare. I thought that was like a perfect description of what Rapture is.
It is a nightmare.
So he goes to kill Ryan, and
Ryan tries to whack him with a walking stick. And then
he can't do it. That's the thing.
Bill takes the stick and pistol whips Ryan, and then he's like, I need to kill him. No, I can't.
We'll just leave.
So he's just KO'd on the floor.
Oh, because when he walks into the office, there are people like nailed to the freaking wall, which you see in the game.
The fake Fontaine is nailed to the wall. Actually, that's how I found out. Oh my god, Bill died.
Oh yeah, Bill in the game. Bill's on the. You
Bill's
get the
on the
audio
wall.
log from him where he's like, he's my friend, but I have to do it.
He's pinned on the wall, across the way from fake Fontaine. Because there's two guys and the rest are just women.
And so this is where, again, I know I wrote it down because I wanted to bring it up, where there's this girl, her name's Anna, and she sells shoes, but she becomes an assassin, and she's one of the people on the wall because you get her. But she's not mentioned in this book at all.
No, she's not. Well, she's like, I don't think she wanted to be an assassin, right?
I think her daughter was taken, and so she's like...
It's just one of those people who are like, I have to kill Ryan.
Yeah,
like,
she's got
crazy.
A couple different audio logs in the game, and so she is part of the conspiracy to kill Ryan, which I thought Bill was part of the conspiracy. I thought they had like people that were like, okay, if I can't do it, then you have to do it.
I feel like Bill just decided, like, I gotta take this guy out, and then I didn't. And even Ryan was like, you know, if you were a real man and not like a lame slave, you would kill me right now. And he couldn't.
Because he's a better man than Ryan. So after the pistol whip, he's knocked out, and so Bill's like, all right, we got to get out of here. And so he goes to find his wife and daughter, in which they're being attacked by someone from the cult of Saturnalia.
Yeah, that weird cult that was in, is it Arcadia?
Yeah, but for like a hot second.
For a hot second, they're like frat boys who like drink blood and pretend like they're
That was cool. The audio log.
Yeah.
They have like sticks in their hair.
Yeah, it's so weird, but they're how you introduce the Houdini splicers, right?
No, well, sort of.
They are also
in the
Houdini
same area,
splicers.
Yeah.
And they have little caves with weird...
And they use the fire.
Yeah, they use fire.
Houdini splicers use fire, so...
They're being harassed, and I think Bill kills the cult member. Yep. And then they run to the bathysphere, and then there's a splicer, and the splicer tries to stop them. And then Diane kills the splicer.
Elaine.
Shoot.
Diane is dead. But
Diane is
they're
dead.
both Ryan's secretaries, so...
Elaine. Sorry. Killed that splicer, and then they finally made it into the bathysphere, and they go up.
I like because he's like, good shot, honey, and she's like, well, I learned from the best.
And then they make it up. They're at the lighthouse.
They're in the lighthouse. He cut the power, so there's no cameras, and then they're like, we made it. We're gonna get out of here, see?
And they're like, surprised there's no cameras in here, and the police are like, there are.
There's secret cameras all over the place.
So yeah, the police were waiting. Anyone who also was trying to leave becomes a big daddy. We found that out
Yeah.
too. Lots of big daddies happening
And
over
so
there.
they're charged with taking them back down, and Bill's like, what did Ryan tell you exactly? Just me or my family? And they're like, well, just you. And he's like, save my family.
Yeah. Just say they died from splicers or whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
And
just
they're
take
like, we
me.
can't do that. And he's like, are you sure?
And okay, so we have Karlowski and Cavendish, Cavendish is the new head of police, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Is he the black guy? Cause...
No, that's a different guy.
Oh.
I thought that guy was the guy that was helping them escape. Because they had to meet a guy up there.
Wallace is the one that's helping them escape.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. Anyway, Cavendish is new head of police because Sullivan offed himself. So Cavendish is like, well, I'm going to take all y'all back down. And then Karlowski is like, you know what? Screw you. And then just shoots him. And then Karlowski's like, I'll just take Bill and Wallace and then you guys can stay.
Yay. Because I'm like, if they do anything, it's like, someone's gotta, this gotta end good. They give Wallace to Suchong, which he's gonna become a big daddy.
He's gonna become a big daddy.
And then Karlowski he's been told that he has to crucify Bill before he kills him.
And he's like, I like you, Bill, so I'll just shoot you first. And then Bill never heard the bullet that killed him.
Yeah, poor Bill. But then the very last part is we're in New York, and Sophia and Elaine have made it, and she's got agoraphobia. No surprise, because her whole life has been spent under the sea. And the weird thing is the doctor carries her to Central Park.
Yeah, and they're like, it reminds me of a big daddy and a little sister, which is gross.
Yeah, no.
And
Daddy would have liked it here.
That's the end of the book.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, happy ending for his family, and then you come down there as Jack
and kill everyone.
Murder
all the people.
And that's BioShock Rapture.
Both 1 and 2.
Yes.
For the games, because there you run into all the people in both games. So,
overall, I liked it. I liked the drama and the intrigue. It was fast. It was nice.
It was fast. Not a lot of like detail, but I think because there's a lot of dialogue and a lot of events that happen.
I read somebody's complaint where they said that it wasn't very descriptive in terms of what Rapture looks like, and
that's fair.
I guess I could see that because if you didn't know.
I mean, they give some examples. They talk about Art Deco, so if you didn't get the examples that they were talking about. But I think the expanse of the city you didn't quite get either. Because again, there's like 18,000 people living there.
It's a lot. And a lot of them died too.
Yeah. People just dying left and right. But, so again, we recommend you play the game first before reading or listening to this book. Because definitely.
But I'm assuming if you got this far that you have already played the games.
Hopefully, because we just totally spoiled.
Well, now you can say that you've played it because you know the plot, so sort of.
Well, we left a lot out of the games.
Did.
We talked more about the book, but yeah.
But we ruined the fun spoilers, so bummer.
True. Okay. What are we reading next time?
We're going, because this was probably one of the biggest books that we read so far, I feel like. So we're going smaller, and this is our first time reading comics on purpose, because last time I read a comic just to understand what was going on in the last book. So we have the Horizon Zero Dawn comics, the Sunhawk and Liberation by
Antul and Melina, Brian Valencia, Jim Campbell. And then Liberation is
same people.
Antul, Elmer Damasio, Brian Valencia, and Jim Campbell.
Sorry, Elmer. I didn't see it was different.
So
yeah, comics. Yay, those are shorter.
Until next time.
Goodbye.